What's going on, everyone, and welcome to my channel. In this episode, what I'm going to cover is exactly the exact metrics and KPIs, even though it sounds really boring, but this is what's going to take your business from just 6 figures or multiple 5 figures per year to 7 figures, because you're going to be understanding marketing like our best clients ever, and also how our marketing agency also grew from just making it $20,000 a month all the way to $200,000 a month doing these exact same things. And we will cover a few metrics that you should be actually measuring in your business, tracking in your business, that are fairly basic, but a lot of people are not doing, that could add you a lot of money and will help you grow and understand better, have less headaches, and so on. So if you get any value from this channel, hit that subscribe button and then like it, because it's gonna help the YouTube algorithm that more people see it, and you also will help this channel so that we get more of these value add videos. All right, let's go. So let's go over the conversion metrics, which are way more important than the CPC, CPM, all these vanity metrics that at the end of the day, if you're bringing leads and you're having good quality conversations with those leads, that is ultimately what matters. And we get the feedback from the sales conversations and the sales process in order to consistently and respectively are going to optimize the marketing campaigns. So feedback is ultimately important. Whatever media buyer is that it's running the campaign, feedback, it's gonna be everything. Questions about the conversations that you had, going over the actual recording of the conversation, what type of seller, what type of lead it is, what type of conversations you're having, but also how are you going above and beyond to trying to actually solve the problem. So let's go over the metrics. The first one is going to be cost per lead. So cost per lead right here is obviously, just like it says, is the amount of money that it takes to actually get one lead. But here's the tricky part. When you're looking at the cost per lead, if you're paying $1,000 for a lead, but there's a high chance that that person needs to sell the property, you could potentially get under contract, then how many of those leads would you buy? Or would you buy that lead? Yes, 100%. You would buy that lead. And I would buy that lead too. And here's the thing. You obviously need to understand that cost per lead is not everything. It's the quality of the conversation that you have, the quality of the person, the quality of the seller that you've been having. And cost per lead is going to be subjective to what your capabilities are. So if a wholesaler only does wholesaling and a creative investor only does creative investor, and you only want those type of leads, then your cost per lead is going to be different. So we're gonna evaluate the cost per lead on Facebook a little bit different, because it's gonna tell us how much it actually takes in money for someone to submit a form or to submit an actual lead from a website and a survey, right? And that's gonna be the metric that Facebook gives us, or that Google gives us. In this case, we're covering Facebook. So cost per lead usually is going to range from a good local market from $70 all the way to $150. And that depends on where you are. So we have places like Detroit that where when we're walking through the ad account, we have cost of about $50 cost per lead on the ad level. We have $25, $35, $45, $50, $56, $60. Whereas where we go to Miami, we have cost per leads of $120, $150, right? So what does that mean? Detroit, per deal, you make way less money than compared to Miami. And if we go to the West Coast, that still also happens in California. If you see California, higher median home price, cost per lead, think about higher than $100. Probably higher than $120, even close to $150, $180 cost per lead. If we're talking here, majority of places in California, the higher the median home price, the higher the cost per lead. Why? Because you also are going to have a higher return per lead, because based on your market, you can get a deal of over $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. And the better that you get a conversion, then the least you're gonna pay per lead. And that's because you're gonna be able to have a higher spread and make more money. So we went through the cost per lead, and if we were to go to Facebook, we're gonna take a look at cost per lead here. For example, this one is in Texas, in Houston. The last 7 days, we're taking a look at in the ad level on the Facebook lead form campaign. It is about, in the last 14 days, about $41, but let's take a look at the last 7 days, or let's take a look at the last 3 days, for example. It's about $29, which is really, really cheap in the ad level. If you were to look at it in the ad set level or in the campaign level, usually the costs goes higher because we're split testing with different type of ads. So don't be surprised that in a campaign level, your ads are about $70, $80, $100, $120 because we're splitting different ads because we're giving the chance for Facebook to optimize to what really works. And the cost per lead, you're gonna see it here in cost per result, usually per Facebook, on Facebook leads are lead forms. So lead forms that you create within Facebook that has Facebook user interface, and ultimately you want to be able to measure and split test different type of strategies. In this case, we have per lead, which is per website, where we use in a landing page, which is a conversion campaign, and that landing page has a form or it has a survey. But this is how you measure your cost per lead. You want to be able to measure your cost per lead in the last 7 days, in the last 30 days. You also want to measure your cost per lead in the last 3 days. So you make decisions in the last 3 days, last 7 days, and last 30 days on your campaigns. If, for example, the last 3 days is fairly high, well, what's been in the last 7 days? When you take a look at it in the last 7 days and it's not that high, then you may give an opportunity of a day or two to that ad to still run. However, when you look at it in the actual KPI level, if the CPC, the CPM, the CTR, all these metrics are looking like the ad could potentially die off tomorrow, or it just doesn't make sense, then you may want to turn off that specific ad creative or that specific ad in the ad level. I'm not talking here the entire campaign, I'm talking here the ad creative itself. So here, for example, this one has in the last 7 days spent $76 right here. This one was already turned off. At some point, it was actually turned off. If we were to look at it in terms of when it was turned off, then we can last edit, date last edit. So date last edit was May 18. Was it May 18? Yep. So it was probably turned off on May 18, just a few days ago or so, and this one is still on just because they saw that there was an opportunity on spending more money on that specific ad, even though this few other ads are not as bad, because here's the thing, like it hasn't spent that much money either on these ads, so we still don't know what the cost per lead is in those specific ads. So sometimes you would give the opportunity to these ads to still continue in another new campaign or another new ad set, so that you give the opportunity to these ones that haven't spent that much money. And if you take a look at their metrics, for example, this one is lower CPC, which is the winning one. This one is not as high, but it's higher. This one is way higher. This one is lower, actually. This one is about the same CTR. So this one could have been given a little bit more of an opportunity. However, the cost per click on the link is way higher than this one. So I'm not surprised that this one ended up winning and started getting ads faster. Started getting leads faster. This one right here has a CPM that is higher than this one, but again, that could be still a vanity metric. So our media buyers ended up turning this one off. That's what I would assume. It's, again, Houston, Texas. All right, so this one is in the last 30 days. We're looking at this one in the last 7 days. It was still running, obviously. So we are seeing similar stuff right in here. Let's talk about the other metric. What's your cost per appointment? So cost per appointment, another huge important conversion metric right here. If you're not measuring your cost per appointment, then you might be missing out on how many leads does it actually take for you to get one appointment. And this would be a phone call appointment. Now, majority of our clients are currently doing virtual wholesaling, virtual real estate investing. If you're still doing in-person walk-ins, going to the appointment in person, you're missing out on actually being optimized towards getting a higher return of your time. And that's another topic, but the appointment is usually how many people have said, yes, let's book a time, specific time in the calendar to talk about an offer or talk about selling my house. And your cost per appointment will be much higher than your cost per lead. Why? Because not everyone at the beginning will book an appointment. The goal here is that with this funnel, where it starts with a landing page, then the landing page submits a form, goes through a survey, and at the end of that survey, ultimately will allow your user, your seller, to actually book an appointment on your closer's calendar, or in your case, if you're doing a solopreneur type of thing, then it will be in your calendar. Not everyone will book an appointment. Only about 25 to 40% of people in the REI space will book an appointment. And that depends on campaigns, that depends on the market, that depends on a lot of different factors. But you want to understand that not everyone is booking an appointment. The rest will need follow-up for those appointments to actually happen throughout time, or for someone to pick up the phone and just talk with them. Some of them will book by themselves, and some of them you will need to book it by calling them and be like, hey, I just received your information on the ad. Since like you're looking to sell your house, yes, great. Do you have 5 minutes, or is it a bad time to talk? Sure. All right, then if it's not, then you can always follow up and book an appointment itself. That's the cost per appointment. Just think about it. If you were to do numbers here, right? And it's about, you receive 10 leads, and each one of those leads cost you $85, $90. Let's say $85, right? So 10 times 85, that's $150 for 10 leads. And only 25 to 40% of them actually book an appointment. So what that means that how much does it actually cost for an appointment to happen? So if we spent $850 for 10 leads, how much does an appointment actually cost? What you take is you take 25%, 40% of the amount of leads that you generate, and how many appointments would that be? So that would be, let's say, 2.5 to 4, right? So when you do 2.5 to 4, and now you divide by, let's say, in this case, $850 and so on, we will find out how much an actual appointment actually costs. So let's take a look at this. 2.5 is not really a number, so let's just make it 3. And you got $850, right? And so that is $85 per lead, right? And out of 10, you book 3 appointments. That is obviously 3. And $850 divided into 3, that's more or less $283 and so on. So that's basically what we have to take a look into appointments. But that's the minimum. But what if it is actually 40%, all right? So if it is 40%, that's divided into 4, that's 220, right? It's not bad. I guess we can do way better than that. When you're actually measuring your cost per appointment, now you will know how many also leads does it actually take to book an appointment, which means that you can take a look at your follow-up process. How fast are you getting to that lead? How ultimately are you communicating with that lead so that it books an appointment, or what your automations are in terms of the funnel that you have created right in top of the funnel, or at the bottom of the funnel when you are following up with that lead and encouraging an appointment through text message or email. The next KPI that we need to take a look at is cost per acquisition or cost per contract in this case, for example. So how much does it actually cost for you to actually get one deal under contract? One contract. So a lot of people are not actually measuring this, but this is a crucial thing that you need to actually measure in your campaigns. If you're not measuring the cost per contract and you're paying too much cost per lead, then you don't really have a control of what your marketing is, your marketing channel is. You want to be able to actually measure what's your cost per contract. So if it actually costed you, let's say $2,500 to get one contract and you generated only 2 leads, each lead is $1,250, then what does the cost per lead matter? Does not matter. It only took you 2 leads. But if it took you, for example, in the case of Facebook, 12 leads, or let's just do a conservative number, 14 leads to get one contract, and each one of those leads is $125, that means that it took you with 14 leads, it's very, very conservative, 14 times 125, $1,750 to actually get one contract. And this is way more important than focusing on the cost per lead or his vanity metric, whatever that is, because this is actually going to take a look at what your marketing is like, what your sales process is like. And majority of people are actually struggling more on the conversion side. But if you don't have a track of what your cost per contract is to acquire one contract, then you will not be able to make clear decisions on your marketing. Let's just say that you are actually getting leads for $200, right? So you get 200 leads from Facebook for $200. That will be kind of extreme. So, well, not extreme, like it could happen, some markets for sure. $200, and it takes you 14 leads to get one contract. So 14 leads, $2,800, that's kind of like in the higher end, maybe to get a contract. And that's $2,800 to get a contract on Facebook. And let's say you do close that contract 100%, for sure you close it. That means it took you close to $3,000 to get a deal. And let's say that contract closes fast. So it's amazing, right? So why does it matter at the end of the day, cost per lead, when you are measuring something like cost per contract? That's what you need to be able to measure. Now, if you improve, how many leads does it take for you to get that one contract? I mentioned 14, but now you're doing it at 8, right? What would that take? That will take better follow-up skills, better sales process, a way to actually get that property in the contract by knowing how to fulfill your client, which means knowing how to get the tools. In order to get it on the contract, I'm talking here apart from wholesaling, what else can you do to that seller? Innovation, creative financing, maybe listing it on the market. And if that's still going to make you money, then measure it that way. Obviously, that's cost per contract, and lead to contract, the better you make it. Let's say now you're at 12 leads per contract on Facebook. And on Google, let's say that you are at 8 leads or 6 leads per contract. And even if you're paying $300, $400 per lead, and let's say you're paying $400 per lead, and you're on Google at 6, that's $2,400 per contract. Is that contract going to close? Let's say you do close that contract and you close it in a short time, a period of time after a contract is created, and you close it. Now, how much money is that going to make? You're probably going to get a $15,000, $20,000 rip. And at the end of the day, that's a huge return of investment. If we're looking at this specific metric this way, it's a better way for you to make decisions. Days to contract. So a lot of people actually don't really know how long does it actually take to get a contract. Well, the moment that a lead is generated from Facebook or even from Google, but you have to be able to measure it based on your marketing channel. You have to understand how long does it take to get it on the contract. Sometimes with Facebook, because you are not going to have everyone to agree on your offer right away. You'll need a lot of follow-up, nurturing skills, and making sure that you follow up with this lead. It might take you up to 90 days to actually get a contract. But guess what? Majority of our clients, if they use the proper techniques on sales conversion, follow-up skills, utilizing our systems and mechanisms and processes and follow-up, they can get contracts in the first day. They can get contracts in the first month. And we've seen this. You have to be able to have a way to actually measure how long does it take for you to get a lead on the contract after the lead has been generated. And for example, our Slack channel actually measures how many leads did it take for one contract to happen. We've seen it's 20 days, 5 days, 65 days, sometimes 120 days, sometimes 180 days. It takes actual time to get homes. So you have to be able to have patience in this part, because you're gonna get contracts. You just need to know your numbers, and you need to improve your numbers with better conversion skills. Make sure to always measure cost per acquisition, cost per contract. Now, the other metric that needs to be measured will be the cost per deal. So how much money is it going to actually take you to close that contract or contracts they've had? And let's just say that you do have a contract drop-off rate of, let's say, 70%, 80%, or so on, where not every contract that actually goes through. This is something you need to understand. Not every contract actually goes through. Even if you have a perfect system, not every contract is going to go through. How do you maximize that? You have to be able to have better conversion skills, better buyers, better systems to market this deal and actually get it sold. Great number at making the deal happen. Maybe the strategy that you chose in order to get this deal in the contract was poor or poorly structured or so on, and maybe that's not helping you at the end of the day on the contract side. So how much money does it actually take for you to close one deal? And let's say, for example, that you get 2 contracts your first month, and each one of them, it took you about, I'm gonna do some calculations here. So each one of them, it took you, let's do 12, doesn't matter. So each one was 12, and the amount of money that you paid per lead was, let's just say $110, and it's about 12, so 13, 20 per contract. And let's just say that you were able to get 2 contracts in the first, or 3 contracts in the first 2 months of, let's say, running your Facebook ad campaign. That's why budget is actually important, and knowing how much budget to actually start with. Let's say is $110 and 12 leads were generated. You got 2 contracts, and let's just average 12 leads per amount of contracts that you generated. It's about $2,600 or $2,700 that you're gonna spend for 2 contracts. If you close both and you still continue spending money, but then it took you now, after getting on the contract, 30 or 45 days or even 60 days, which means that you still need to continuously spend more money. And let's just say that you double that money after you spend it. So let's say you're continuously spending $60 a day and so on, which is $1,800 times 2. That's $3,600. That's 2 months more or less. Now you already have 2 contracts. That means that you'll need to continuously spend more money until you close that deal. And at the time that you actually close that deal, how much money have you spent? So let's say, for example, you close that deal in month 4, and you're spending, now you have spent $7,200, right? But you have had a few contracts on the way. So now you are going to close on those few contracts. Now you've closed on the first contract. Boom. It closed at $7,200 of ad spend. That means that that deal that is closed cost you $7,200. But guess what? You have other contracts in the way, and those ones potentially could also close. So when those close, let's just say it closes a few weeks, hypothetically, or a few days or in the same time, then you're probably gonna be at around $8,000 for 2 deals closed, which is about $4,000 per closed deal. You have to understand how much money you're actually taking and spending in order to get a deal done. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong. They don't wait and don't have patience enough, but they don't have also marketing stamina and understanding on the projected ROI that this is going to give you in the future. Because if you're waiting only 3 months for a deal to close, you're wrong. If you're waiting 4 months to get money in the pocket, you're wrong. Like this is gonna be very bad. You have to be able to understand that not every deal is gonna close right away. So you have to have a long-term mindset. You have to have a long-term commitment on a marketing campaign like Facebook and even Google. So those are the things that you're gonna know. So how many leads did it actually take to actually close that deal? So throughout that time, you can actually do the calculation. That means that if it took you $8,000 and with $8,000 at, let's say $110 a lead, that's maybe 70 leads and so on. So $8,000, 70 leads and so on. There were 72 leads to be more specific. So it took you that amount of leads to actually get 2 deals closed, which is about 35 per deal close. So that's what you gotta understand. And the other thing that you gotta understand is the days that it took you to close a deal. This is ultimately your cash conversion cycle. How much time did it actually take from a lead to money in your pocket? All that time, first of all, you have lead to contract. Might take you 90 days, 60 days, 75 days, 120 days, depending on the marketing channel. And now you have to understand how much time is it gonna take for you to close that deal. After that contract is done, how much did it take to actually close that deal? Let's say in a perfect scenario, title is right, all of the stuff is right. It took you probably less than 30 days to close a deal to get it to a buyer, or to do whatever it is necessary in order to buy it, in order to close that deal, title company to help you. But what if it has actually trouble? Or what if it actually has problems? Such as, I don't know, title issues, something in the back end. You have to deal with the seller, you have to deal with the paperwork, you have to deal with the buyer, you have to deal with the title company, you have to deal with the inspector. It might take you longer. But if you understand how many leads to a closed deal, how much money to a closed deal, and how many days to a closed deal, now you will see marketing in a different way. You're gonna be able to have better decisions, more patience. You're not gonna be able to go left and right and have better decision-making process. And this is why we have an ROI calculator. And the ROI calculator is going to give you a projection of basically all these things that are going to be crucial for you understanding a few things about Facebook lead generation, even Google lead generation. And we're going to go through that ROI calculator so that at some point, if you're a marketing manager, or if you're a media buyer, or you're an agency, or you're just an owner yourself, you will be able to understand this in a better way so you don't go crazy, or you make this understand to your CEO, to your owner, because now we have an ROI calculator understanding a few of these concepts, a few of those things that we talked about. Sounds good? All right, so we're gonna go over that ROI calculator 100%.